Hey everybody, welcome to another live stream. Today I'm going to be doing some vacuforming in order to get these Spider-Man face shells, this plastic hard shell that you wear underneath a mask and gives it its shape. I'll be doing vacuforming, which is using a vacuum to shape heated up plastic around the face shell. So that'll be pretty cool. Um, to start off, right off the bat, let me get these comments going up. I'll be going through the whole process live. I've got my plastic here set up in my frame, and this is ABS plastic. It's an eighth of an inch thick. You can, see the thickness of the plastic in there, and then you'll see that my frame is also solid too. It's layers of this Home Depot ruler. I love this Home Depot ruler because it's perfectly flat and straight. Um, but hey guys, it's fun to check in with you guys in the comments. But anyway, I like this Home Depot ruler because it's really flat and straight. But you can find other stuff to make your frame out of. It just has to be solid like this, so that when you put your heated plastic onto your vacuum box, this box here that my vacuum is plugged into, just with a hole on the side, it uses the vacuum pressure up through these holes. There's weather stripping around the edges, and that's what brings the plastic down and makes a tight seal. So I guess I should just go ahead and throw this in here. Now this frame also, I've custom built it for this oven. It's got these wire extremities on the side that stick out, and they hold it basically floating in the middle of the oven. You'll see here in a second. So I'm putting this pretty close to the top. You'll want to preheat your oven to 450 degrees first. And then I also have a cookie sheet with foil on the bottom. I think my roommate might have just gotten home. But so you will want foil on the bottom of a cookie sheet on the bottom of the oven. And I put that plastic in, and I set a timer for 4 minutes. It'll usually take a little bit longer than that, but I set the timer just so that I make sure to be here when the plastic is ready to go. I have my gloves ready. I have a towel here that I've gotten damp. Once I put that onto the plastic buck, I'm gonna put this damp towel all over it and kind of cool the plastic quickly. Catching up on some comments here. Yeah, here's my roommate Will and Jen. Yeah, they were just put on the stream against their will. I'm reading comments here. Thanks, Matt. Devon, yeah, it's good to see kind of standard shell molding that I like to do here. So I'm about halfway through my time here, or well, I guess a minute in here. So I'll just wait until this plastic is all formed here. Oh yeah, this is a new. Sorry, I'm trying to say less. It's kind of my default thing when I'm in a stream. Is every other word. This is my new shell. It's different from my old one. I could go grab my old one. Grab that really fast. Walk through my workshop while the plastic is ready. See, this is why I set a timer while I'm doing vacuforming, because I walk away. That 4 minutes is too long for my attention span. And so I always end up walking away, which can be bad. And that's what the pan in the bottom of the oven with the tin foil on it is for, because if your plastic is in there too long, it'll melt and drip. You don't want that to get on your oven. So those are the two versions of the buck here. Might look a little bit better with this shell. But you can see it's a little thinner, it's a little bit smaller. This one was wider and just larger in general. This one is pretty tight on my head. I have a large head, and this one is a little bit more comfortable. But I think most people have a more normal sized head, and so I sized it accordingly. You also want to have your lenses ready for when you're forming your plastic, because these lenses have the magnets on the bottom. You can see that. And so what that'll do is those magnets, I have magnets inside of the buck too, and that'll help to really make those indentations really pronounced. So it's not started to droop really yet. It's kind of heating a little bit. Yeah, Matt just said, send me your failed shell attempts. I really like this new buck I have because there's not a lot that can fail about it. This other one had a couple details on it. It had a forehead seam, and it had these little grooves on the back of the eye that work okay for my pattern because it allows the seam to kind of sit into the shell, but it doesn't look as good on other types of suit. So for the new one, I just did totally smooth. I left all those details off, and it makes it a lot easier to form. Okay, so close to the end here. Timer is about to go off. Let's see. Yep, right about time. So vacuum. Okay, sorry if that was loud. I always forget to warn people when I do loud stuff, but hopefully it's not too loud. Let me just say really quick, I took off my gloves. You'll notice I took off my gloves before I grabbed the wet rag. You don't want to use gloves in anything wet when you're dealing with really hot stuff, because if your gloves get wet and they touch something really hot, it can actually vaporize the moisture and scald your hands and while you're wearing the gloves, so it can really hurt you. So don't do that. But this rag is just to kind of cool the plastic down. I'm also hitting these metal parts like the bolts because they were also in the oven. All right. Sorry, I'm catching up on comments, guys. It says you're waiting on McLean. I'm reading Jonathan's comment. Oh well, I'll move on. So now I switch gloves, these sort of rubber ones. I don't wear them for this first part because I don't think they deal with the heat very well. You basically need oven mitts for the first part. All right. Undefined asked, do you hate the feeling of super glue on your fingers? Yeah, I hate any glue on my fingers, but not as much as I hate the feeling of hot glue on my fingers. Hot glue is the worst thing to get on your fingers. Oh, yeah, I didn't mention my little mock-up you guys saw, probably noticed over there. So this is a little armor mock-up I designed. I want to actually 3D print it full-sized. This is like some scale. I'm not sure what scale. This was just as big as my printer could print this, mock-up. But yeah, this is Saiyan armor from DBZ, if any of you know what that is. But it's kind of got a Batman, sort of Iron Man design to the armor, more of like a practical, realistic type of armor than the kind of simplified version they have for the manga and the anime. But yeah, I think that'd be a cool stepping stone to designing a larger suit like RoboCop or Iron Man and 3D printing something like that. Because I want to do a lot of movement. I want to have each of these um, panels be separated so it should be able to, bend at the waist. And then same for the back. I have the back designed so that the panels are separated. So I think it would be cool if it was just flexible. So that'll be a cool project, kind of a thing I can get done in the next couple of weeks while I'm doing projects like this during the day. I'm glad I'm able to stream again. It's been a while. Vivimizi, I know I didn't pronounce that right. Vivimizi asked, how do you calculate it to be more accurate than the other masks created? Basically, this buck I have and this shell is like the 4th or 5th version of face shells I've just been working on for like 5 or 6 years now. Even as far back as ASM1, the original reboot Spider-Man movie, I updated that face shell to make my first ASM2 face shell, and then I've just been updating it ever since. And I've kind of started from scratch before, but it's kind of just been a matter of just making tiny little improvements every single time. And the reality is, I know there's even stuff here that I could improve, but there's a certain point where you just have to kind of be like, it's good. I don't need to keep beating myself up to get it perfect quality. It kind of captures the feeling of the movie. That's what my ultimate goal usually. And I really like this one for that. And so I'll be able to pretty easily from here on out just start making kits. Like I mentioned earlier, I've made it easier to vacuum form. I've made it a little easier to trim and everything too. The bottom just slips out now. Oh yeah, I've also printed a little bit of this armor. This is the center. It looks really ripply and bad because this is the tallest thing I've printed yet. It was basically as tall as my printer can print, and so it was printed upside down. And so as it got taller, it moving back and forth makes it wobble, and that's what kind of causes that rippliness. And that's why I've got a larger scale printer, and I'm waiting on that to work. I'm waiting for a replacement power supply from GearBest, but it's taking forever for them to get that to me. It's already taken like a month. It's kind of been a nightmare dealing with their customer service for it. So I'm putting this tape on. Unfortunately, I can't trim the shell all the way back. Sorry, I'm trying to let you guys see this, but I have to get really low. I can't trim the shell all the way down to that line because the shell just has a lot of undercuts. If you look at the shape, it's basically like an egg because that's what the human head sort of is like. And so it cuts in a lot all the way around. And so that's why in my last Vacuform stream, and I'll struggle with it a little bit here too, but it's hard to just unlock the shell from that shape because it's just so perfectly curved and locked in. All right, this is fun to do with the camera. Really easy. Oh, that's too high. So this is going to be a kit or a finished shell for someone. If you're interested in getting a kit or a finished shell, I'll include information below, but it's basically just my email, mclean.krieger@gmail.com. There should be contact info, but just send me a message and I'll get that process started. Kind of cutting away from the tape just to give myself some clearance. It's hard to get this in frame. And a rule of cutting, never cut towards yourself. And what that means is, like, if I were doing this, that would be cutting towards myself because I could slip and cut my hand or my wrist. And so like this, you know, it's still possible, and I am still a little bit cutting towards myself, but I kind of have control over it, and if anything went wrong, it would miss my body, you know. So you just score the plastic, and you want it to be warmer. This part is difficult for me because usually when I'm trimming these shells, I'm like my head is upside down, like I do this. Oh, it's giving me an angry message. It doesn't like me to tilt that much. And on this buck, I've built like a kind of trim gutter that goes around the entire buck and kind of gives me a place to trim with this knife to unlock the shell. I haven't looked at the comments in a while. Sorry, guys. But that's okay. I'm sure it's fine just watching me do stuff. Yeah. And also this shell is really improved on the chin. Like the chin just curves in a lot more. My last shell, I was never able to get it to curve in as much as this one. And so it always kind of stuck down and had a edge that you could see under masks sometimes, especially if your head was smaller. But I fixed that a lot on this one. So I'm probably gonna have to go over that a couple more times. I hope the video is working better. The other night I tried to do a live stream, and unfortunately the video just was really bad. It was stuttering and stuff. But hopefully it's better now. I did a couple tests before I started this time, which I've learned, you know, is probably something I should do every time, because I always have technical problems like that. Okay, now I take these snips and unlock it. I just saw a comment. Alexander asked, are you going to do a homecoming shell without the mechanical lenses? I've thought about it, yeah. I'd have to design a different shell buck, because for the moving lenses, the shell buck has just missing eyes entirely, because you want just entirely missing eye holes so it is open to the mechanics or the mechanisms inside. But you need, or you don't need it, but it's nice to have what I've got here, which are these little magnet divots. So I kind of need to design a new shell for that has these little impressions for the magnets, because it gives it a place to lock into. You can just have magnets on each side of the shell, but they could kind of slide around and fall off. So I like to do it that way. Pretty easy. You can get unlucky, and if you don't trim well enough, during that ripping stage, it can tear up into the actual shell, because the plastic can get a little thin around the edges, which is actually kind of good. It stays thick in the top where it keeps its shape, but then it gets thin around the edges, so it kind of presses down on your head and has a more natural shape. That's why I really like these Vacuform shells. Those urethane shells were a big pain. right. Almost time for the fun part. Unfortunately, I still have to do little slits on the back here to kind of alleviate, because if you can see here, this curve, this downward angle goes all the way along the back of this shell, and that really clings on to the buck. But if you just do a little incision here, it's not something you can see when the shell's done. It's only something you can see when you're just looking at it. All right. And then that also a Lego head. That'd be funny. Brian asked if I could do a Lego head. There are people that do Lego heads out there. Like Frank, I can't remember his last name, but he has a really popular YouTube channel, and he did a realistic human Lego head, and it's really funny. You should go check it out. Although it's like pure silicone, and so it's like really heavy. It's a really heavy mask. All right, just positioning my pliers here for this fun task. Also with this buck, so I guess I haven't mentioned this yet. Most people who are familiar with vacuforming know you have to do plaster with bucks and stuff like that, like hydrocal. And I have hydrocal on the inside. I coat plastic on the inside with hydrocal, and that gives it a slightly slicker surface for the parts to slide against each other, because I've noticed the plaster itself is so porous that plastic really sticks onto it. So I have a lot of trouble getting shells off of just a straight plaster mold. But I've noticed here that my grip is kind of loose, so that might break. I hope it doesn't, but it might pop out here as I try to get this shell off. And it takes a little bit of coaxing, like always. That last Vacuform stream I did, I had a lot of trouble, and that was just because I didn't use enough mold release. I've learned since, and I knew my lesson. You know, it's if you don't use enough mold release, and if you have really bad overhangs and you haven't trimmed it enough, there's a lot of things for my shells and bucks. Yeah, I might have to trim it a little higher. And this can be a little annoying sometimes, but it also makes for a really good shell because it goes far back on the head. I've noticed there are other shells out there that don't do that. They don't go very far back on the head. I'm gonna try to trim a little bit of this side stuff too, because that can help it cling on. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. It's fun to be streaming again. Although it can definitely be tough. The timing is tough for sure. I was lucky today that I was able to do it late in the afternoon, but kind of still, it's kind of tough when you've got people walking around and things like that. But I do love to stream, so I want to do that more often. And I've got some moving lens stuff going right now as well as I catch up on these shells. All right, I know it's super fun to watch me be getting this shell off again. It's hummingbird time, so really fast. We're gonna go outside of my house. I probably spooked him a little bit. Yeah, so these are my hummingbirds. Well, they were a ton. I scared them away. All right. Okay. Oh, I see that question. Can you do a Spider-Man 2099 mask? Maybe eventually. I want to do the moving lenses. I want to get that caught up, and I also want to do the Into the Spider-Verse Miles Morales mask. I think that's a cool one. All right, so this shouldn't fight me too much now, hopefully. Jalen. Yeah, I don't know who at 2017 Homecoming is. But I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say because I just sell masks and kits to people. So sometimes that can be what that means. Is I've just sold them a kit or something, and so they get excited about it and they post about it or something like that. So it's hard to say, but I don't know. There we go. It just likes to be mean to me. All right. Freed up the buck. Everything's good to go for another round. All right, so that can be how it can be a sort of time-intensive process to just go and do a bunch of shells. It'd be quicker if I had multiple bucks. I could kind of cast multiple bucks at once and then trim them all at once, but I don't really have time to do that, so I'm just going ahead with one. Oh, look at yeah, it's great to see you guys. Yeah, sorry if I'm missing your comments. It's not on purpose. I'm just kind of trying to actually get work done while also streaming. Yeah, I want to do Iron Spider MCU suit, but honestly, it was kind of, you know, disappointing. I mean, it looks cool and stuff. It's a cool design that they made, and it'll be really cool in the movie. But you know, I wanted to do my own interpretation of the Iron Spider with the more like red and gold design and stuff. And that kind of like it was right at that time when the movie came out. I was wanting to work on that. And of course, the movie came out and the ending had that in it, and it was like, ugh. So now you can't really, I couldn't really do my own original design. You have to do the one from the movie, but there wasn't enough reference material out there, really. So, well, now there is definitely, but back when the movie came out, so that kind of just took the wind out of my sails on that project. And so I want to work on other things. Like, I'm really excited to do this 3D printed project with like armor and stuff actually, you know, physically you know, actual practical armor rather than like spandex and stuff. Spandex is cool and you can do really cool stuff with dye sublimation and stuff, but working with those colors and sewing and sizing and stuff like really can be a headache, which is why I've kind of stopped doing patterns and suits and stuff. It can just be because I don't really care about having a big collection of suits for myself. I don't like making the suits for myself. I like helping make them for other people. I mean, obviously, I take a little income from that just for my time put into that. But yeah, so it's hard to do a lot of those different suits. Kudos to those who can do it, who have a ton of different suit designs and have businesses putting them together and everything. Like that's impressive. That's hard to do. But I'm trying to get that with like my face shells and stuff like that. That's more of what I'm interested in. I just saw Brandon's comment. How much and how do I get it? I'll have information in the comments. You'll just have to send an email to me to kind of start the process. But I'm thinking just 150 for a kit form, all the different pieces that you need, everything like the shell, formed, lenses, frames, magnets, everything that you would need, but I wouldn't make it for you. I wouldn't put everything together for you. I will do it during the stream. I mean, I've basically put together entire shells over streams anyway, but I'm going to keep doing it to teach people how to do it. But also for 300, I'll do a full shell package sort of with lenses that has everything. It's just, that I'll actually sit there and put it all together for you, do all the gluing and sanding and trimming and all that. That takes a couple days to do all those different steps. Okay, so ready to go here with another sheet of plastic, it looks like. I probably can't keep streaming too long. I'm kind of keeping my roommates from using the kitchen. I'm starving my roommates, although I gave them a heads up that I was going to stream, so it should be okay. It's pretty exciting. They're moving on to the next step. They're going to be doing their own thing. Come about a week or two, they're moving into a place of their own, so I'll be able to expand my operation a little bit. It's gonna be pretty cool. I'm excited about that. Yeah, I need to. Oh, that's what I need. This thing. Hi, Kving. I see you. Just wanted to reference that comment. So this is my house. People talk about how safe vacuforming is because you are putting plastic in your oven. And I've mentioned this before and kind of talked about it because some people can't do it because they're like their moms or their wives or whoever, their roommates don't let them do it. And the biggest hazard you're going to get from putting this plastic into the oven is the fumes that happen when you put plastic in the oven. That's basically the worst thing. Like, you don't want to breathe those fumes. You want to have a lot of ventilation. You want ventilation right now too when you're putting mold release on. But you put a lot of mold release on so that you don't have the same problem I just had. But yeah, so back to the safety of vacuforming. Basically, the fumes that are happening right now are the most dangerous thing. and people kind of get paranoid and freaked out that it's getting like plastic in the oven or something, and you don't want the plastic to like melt and drip into the oven. That definitely is bad. But there's not really anything that like the fumes aren't like sticking to the side of the oven, and then weeks later when you put food in, like springing off the side of the oven and leaching into your food. Like that's the odds of that happening. Like basically, you wouldn't want to cook food at the same time as the plastic, and you also wouldn't want to put um, you wouldn't want to touch your food against hot plastic like that because the chemicals will leach into your food. So I really don't think it's hazardous. I mean, it's the fumes right now that are happening are the most hazardous part. So you want to have a lot of ventilation, fans going and stuff. Hmm. That's pretty crazy that Jonathan just said that I've never shown how I glue frames to lenses. It's interesting. Um, I've always just, when I've streamed construction steps, it's always just kind of like what I need to get done that day. So that's basically just unlucky coincidence. But yeah, I will definitely be teaching how to do that because I want to teach people who get the kit. All right, it's melting a little bit. Brian Brassel said the Black Panther mask. That actually, when I think of a really challenging 3D printing project, I've seen some people do a really good job at it. But it's got so much detail, and like that would be a really challenging 3D print file to make. So maybe someday. I can't wait to see the movie because everyone's saying that it's really good. I thought it came out this last weekend, so I was kind of bummed. I looked at movie show times and it wasn't out, and so I was kind of upset about that. But oh well. Okay, timer's off. I'm about to turn the vacuum on, so it might be kind of loud. If you need to adjust your volume for that. So here we go. All right, getting a few shells done. Spider pig mask. That'd be pretty funny. Who knows? I'm going to try to get more and more different types of masks done. So someday, maybe I'll have a lot of different variety. Here's another comparing shot of these two shells. Ooh, it's kind of hard with one having the mask on it, but kind of just shows you maybe some differences. The chin's a little deeper. And I used the right side as reference for symmetry because I didn't, that's the great thing about 3D design. I used photogrammetry and scanned the shape of the shell, took the right side and the right lens shape, and just flipped it over, and so that gave me a nice symmetrical, thinner shaped shell. Because the left side is the side that kind of has a little bit of a bump coming out. So it was kind of easy to pick which side I liked better. The duck said, do a Batman mask. I did a Batman mask a few years ago. I've got time lapse actually in my video history. This one, oops. Yeah, I've got a time lapse in my video history of sculpting this Batman cowl. This one's plastic, so I actually can't wear it. I cast it out of my plaster mold right before it was destroyed. It was crumbling apart, and so I cast that and then sanded it down. All right. So I think I might go ahead and call the stream a little bit. I don't think I'm going to trim this next one out because I don't want to keep taking up the kitchen. But I'm glad I got to stream again and hang out with you guys for a little while. It's been way too long. Catching up on comments. Brandon, I'm gonna do a Miles Morales, the Into the Spider-Verse. I want to do that shell and lens, and that one actually has moving lenses too, but in a different style that I kind of would be curious to try. It's the style that was actually the first idea I had for moving lenses. But it's kind of hard to go into. But it's basically like the frame moves on top of the shell, and that's how it works in the Into the Spider-Verse because it's CG. But I've got some ideas for how that might work. Oh, that's too bad. Lego Cool Man just showed up. He's one of the guys that leaves me comments when I don't stream in a long time. Which is pretty funny. It's too bad. But you know, that's how it goes. It's hard to tell when it's gonna be a good time to stream for everybody. But usually this time is pretty good. 6 o'clock for me. Yeah, still reading comments. Catch up on the string. Happy birthday, hero. It was my birthday on Saturday. I turned 30, which is sort of old. Not really. Some people might think it is, but it's not. But yeah, so it was cool to see everybody and catch up. I'll be doing more streams soon. I'll be doing like kind of what you do next. I'm not too sure, but I think in the kit, I might just go ahead and cut the eye holes out because that's kind of a difficult thing to do if you don't have the right tools for it. And it's not too difficult for me. So, you know, there's some, I'm trying to decide where on the kit I'm going to kind of draw the line. Oh yeah, another tip, you know, I discussed the fumes and stuff and how vacuforming can be dangerous. Like I had mentioned, the only thing that would be dangerous is if like the fumes stayed in the oven somehow. So when I'm done vacuforming, I just leave the oven open, you know, turn it off, and let it air out. Let it, you know, air out into my house or whatever, and you still have a lot of ventilation going in and out, so it's not the fumes aren't just staying in your house. But that's another way you can kind of keep it safe. And also, never bake on that tin foil and cooking sheet. And actually, cooking on tin foil in the oven is not great for you, I think. That can be even more dangerous than the vacuforming. So I don't know, though. I don't know anything about that. Pretty funny. Yeah, some of you guys are young. 10 to 12, that's funny. Well, you're learning to do some cool stuff someday. if I actually cohesively teach you all the steps it takes. I always seem to leave important steps out, but I'll get there. I'll have that happen. JLN J Allen, I don't know how to pronounce it, just asked where do I get my plastic sheet for forming, and again it's ABS plastic. If you want to do a Google search, it's ABS plastic, and it's an eighth of an inch thick. And you can find places like on Amazon.com that sell sheets of plastic of ABS that you can vacuform. I get mine from a local plastic distributor called Gavrielli, but they're actually not that great. The plastic kind of has a lot of divots in the bottom of it from the extrusion process, and that can kind of cause problems, especially actually with my moving lenses shell. I had a lot of problems with that. So the stuff I got on Amazon a long time ago actually seemed to be better quality, and it's not very expensive. It's only like $3 or $4 a sheet. So that can be a good way to do it and just have it shipped to your door. Um, but yeah, so that's what I used for this stream. Catching up on comments. CAK, I'm 6'2". I'm tall-ish. Not I'm pretty taller than average. Um, Jonathan, you just have to find a fabric store that's got a pretty wide variety of different bridal meshes. It can be kind of tough to find that stuff. Um, but I've pretty successfully always found it just at like Joann's Fabrics in their bridal mesh section. Just walking around looking for, and it's not always bridal mesh. There might be other. It might be like kind of a satin material maybe that I use that's even better. I'll say one more time, just in case you guys missed it. If you're interested in the kit, send an email to mclean.krieger@gmail.com. I'll put a link to that in the description, and I can field responses or questions about kits from there. And you can either get a kit for 150 or the full shell and lenses. So basically, you would get everything you need, like the full shell and lenses, like this. This is the old version, and it has the rubber fog seal in it as well that you can see in there that keeps the fog from coming up into the eye area, kind of like goggles. Um, and then the kit has just all of the stuff you need, but it just is not assembled. It's just all in pieces. The duck asked why I make Amazing Spider-Man but not the 2002 Spider-Man. I used to do the 2002 Spider-Man back like when those movies were coming out and stuff, but I just never went back and did it again. I've always thought that this one, the ASM2, has been the most faithful to the comics and kind of has the coolest look when it's all done, all the glossy surfaces together. Um, the obviously the 2002 one's really cool, and I've thought about going back and doing that one just because I kind of have a growing collection of these shells, but I just haven't committed to making it. And I kind of when I do a project, I like to go in areas where there isn't already stuff there. I don't like to go where there's already a really awesome replica Batman suit and just compete with whoever has made it. And so there are certain things like Spidey Planet has been making great Raimi Spider-Man face shells for a long time. So there's just kind of no interest or reason for me to go into that. So that's kind of why. And you see that kind of all over with the way people gravitate towards the different things they make. Um, yeah, I really like the Sam Raimi Spider-Man suit though. That one's from the old original movies. from 17, 18 years ago. Jeez. But that one was really cool. The webbing was all really awesome. But yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and stop streaming now just so that I can kind of stop monopolizing my kitchen here. I try to do my vacuforming earlier in the day so that I don't make a bunch of noise and take up the kitchen at night when people want to cook. But yeah, cool. So thanks for stopping in, everyone. It was fun to catch up with you again, and I'll be streaming again soon. Bye.